Good morning, everyone. This is the Board of Directors meeting, May 30th, 2024 of Maryland Environmental Service. It is 9:36. We do have a quorum and we are going to go ahead and get started. The first thing up is the agenda from April 25th, 2024, last month's meeting. If everyone has had a chance to read the minutes, review the minutes, and if there are any corrections or amendments, if they could be offered at this time. And hearing none, the approval of the minutes has been considered by consensus. Thank you. I believe we're going to start with Inspire Awards this morning.
Yes, we are. Next please. Yeah, come up. Anyways, so she says she's you guys can read, right?
Yeah, I did.
I know you got your pension. You got on the bench. Up such.
Good morning, everyone. Amy Warner, I'm Division Chief in the Environmental Dredging and Restoration Group, filling in for Marnie Calendar. Unfortunately, couldn't be here today. So today we are presenting Inspire Awards to Sarah Baker, Environmental Dredging Technician, and Jim Poppingham, Field Operations Supervisor at Cox Creek Dredge Material Containment Facility. These employees are being recognized for their response to an incident of random gunfire at the Cox Creek Sediment Technology and Reuse Facility. On the afternoon of March 7th, 2024, Sarah and Jim, an MP employee, were in the operations trailer when 12 rounds were fired in the direction of the trailer from a nearby road. Sarah and Jim acted swiftly, provided guidance to staff to shelter in place, contacted emergency services, and provided a detailed description of the incident. As police responded, they encountered a vehicle fitting the description provided by Sarah in nearby business. Police were able to make an arrest and recover a loaded firearm within 4 minutes of Sarah's phone. The response to this incident was praised by Ms. Kathleen Cricket, Director of Security of the Maryland Port Administration, and Captain Mount of the Maryland Transportation Authority. The primary objective of the Inspire Awards program is to recognize and reward employees for the outstanding contributions to the Maryland Environmental Service. The response of these employees during this emergency was swift, coordinated, courageous, and professional. Their actions represent the very best that could have been expected of them, and it reflects very well on MES and its employees. Sarah and Jim, congratulations on your Inspire Award, and thank you for your actions on March 7th. You suddenly found yourself in a potential life-threatening situation. Thank you for acting in a calm and professional manner that kept you all safe and others had to say.
We always take a picture. Yeah. It's been a minute. No. Come on, guys.
Good morning. We are giving Inspire Awards to Harry Berman, who is in finance, and Matt Ebrecht, who is in environmental operation. He's the engineer, he's the finance guy, And this is an odd couple, so I'm gonna let you know why that is paired here. Harry Berman and Matt Abreast have been working diligently for over a year toward the installation of electric vehicle charging stations at MES headquarters. Their work included researching options, providers, contracts, benefits, and potential grant opportunities, both with private companies and with other state agencies. Mr. Berman and Mr. Abreast went over and above their regular duties on this project. They started working with Luminous, which has solar installations in the back, and it was very difficult to reach Luminous, too many layers of approvals and all that. Finally, the contract or proposal with Luminous didn't work out. So then they started going with the state contractors. We have the proposals from the two state approved contractors, and that also was not within what we expected. So finally, we went out and put a proposal out. Yesterday was pre-bidding for that, and we had enormous response. More than 30 companies showed up. So I want to award the Inspire Award to Harry and Matt for their extraordinary work for this very important project for MES, because that is our goal, to get this charging station as soon as possible. Harry, Matt. This is Harry.
And Mr. Albers went to get continuing education credits for his PE to learn about what's going on in the region too. So hopefully we'll be able to sell his services for other agencies.
Morning. So I have a short write-up, but before I get to that, with Ms. Berlion, Ms. Espinola, and Ms. Yako, please stand up for a moment. So I just want you to take a look at them. When I joined back in September of last year, this was the entire HR team supporting all of MES. This was literally it, the three people that you see right now. When I joined, we were pretty close to open enrollment, and I was actually pretty concerned about how we would actually make it happen. But the three of them, always with a smile, just told me, don't worry, we got this. And there were times I would wake up at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning because of the phone buzzing, and they would be sending out emails. So I was like, you guys need to get some sleep. So with that being said, Ms. Laura Yonker and Ms. Sarah Espinola from Human Resources and Ms. Shannon Berlion from Government Affairs are receiving this Inspire Award in recognition of their contributions to the Human Resources Department during a challenging period when key leadership positions were vacant. Their dedication and willingness to go above and beyond their regular duties were instrumental in ensuring the continued smooth operation of the MES HR function. Throughout the period when the HR department faced staffing vacancies, these team members stepped up in an extraordinary way. They maintained their own work responsibilities and willingly took on additional duties to fill the voids. Their proactive attitudes and strong work ethics were truly remarkable and kept many crucial components of the HR operations from being overlooked or neglected. Their ability to adapt to changing circumstances, their organizational skills, and commitment to the overall success of the HR department made a significant impact on the agency's ability to continue to provide high-quality HR services to the organization. This dedication not only minimized agency disruption, but it also set a remarkable example for agency colleagues. This Inspire Award is a small token of the agency's appreciation for their dedication and outstanding performance. Thank you and congratulations.
Oh, you gotta give them their award. First time. Thank you. Well, that's good. I'm good.
I'm the one always speaking.
So this is kind of a continuation of what Mr. Sharma said. We're awarding an Inspire Award to Tara Dunn. Tara works in payroll, but while, as Kanish mentioned, there was a vacancy in HR, she assisted in HR as much as possible. Ms. Dunn has been actively involved in assisting with employees' key leave each pay and determining what leave status employees should be on. She assisted HR in FMLA, leave without pay, disability, etc. In addition to the large undertaking of the above mentioned items, Ms. Dunn assisted with ensuring that compensation changes and termination changes are completed in a timely manner within workday. She even trained the new HR, whatever the title is, child associate in the workday to do HR function. So Ms. Dunn was very helpful when there was a vacancy, and we still have vacancies in the finance also. So this Inspire Award is for her extraordinary work and dedication to provide exceptional service to all employees. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to all of our Inspire awardees. They have all gone far above and beyond in a variety of ways. So thank you for your service to MES.
So our assignment's not here yet, so we're gonna defer them till later.
I'm
Okay.
actually here. Yes, I am here. Yes.
There she is.
Yes, yes, I did get the link. Thank you. Yes. Well, good morning, everyone. Just wanted to spend some time to go over what was presented to the audit committee last Thursday. If I do have access, I'd like to share my screen just so I can filter through the executive summary of our presentation. Hopefully everyone sees this.
Yes.
Perfect. Again, May 23rd, we connected with the audit committee as it relates to the fiscal 2024 overview of our audit strategy. I wanted to present to you the executive summary to let you know what was relayed Overall, we went through all of the planning areas that we will be touching base on, as well as our audit approach. But again, for you, this is the main summary slide I wanted to relay. To communicate, we do take an unbiased, risk-based approach in designing our audit procedures, and we relayed that to the audit committee. Additionally, we design our procedures to cover the nature, timing, and extent of those procedures to be performed to be consistent with our risk assessments of our audit approach. We extensively reviewed the audit timeline for the upcoming cycle, and we have preliminary audit work to take place June 10th. A lot of our movement is taking place a little earlier to ensure that we adhere to the new legislative requirements as it relates to the deadline. So during that time of June 10th, we plan to get an update of the understandings of the organization, anything that transpired and changed through fiscal 24 thus far, do some walkthroughs of some key transaction cycles and what is deemed some preliminary analytical review procedures to ensure we start seeing what accounts fluctuated year over year and areas, again, to take some risk assessments on and dive further. We subsequently have scheduled our field work date to occur July 29th. And again, for us, it's all moving things ahead just to ensure we adhere to the requirements as it relates to the timing. There are some emphasis areas. These are key areas that we deem to be significant based on our history and based on the overall structure of the organization. We went over those key areas with the audit committee. And then we also informed the audit committee certain areas that we identified to be key areas are due to the use of the nature of the liabilities, such as your post-employment benefit, and you utilize a valuation specialist. In turn, since you use an external valuation specialist, we as well use a specialist to assist in evaluating those requirements and the liability overall. We don't necessarily anticipate any significant changes or anything of that nature, just because we don't have a year that we're adopting large GASBs. We've done that the last several years, and this is pretty much a quiet year until next year. There will be another GASB that will be required to be adopted by the organization. So in all, this is what we relayed during our May 23rd meeting as it relates to cycle 2024. I will take a pause for any questions. Okay. Let me share another matter that was discussed, which is the official closeout of the 2023 cycle. So this was presented originally October 19th with a represented on May 23rd as it relates to finalizing all the various audits performed. And again, I wanted to focus on the executive summary. So essentially, we noted that all of the audits that were for 2023 have been complete. So the financial statements were completed December 22nd. The indirect cost schedules were completed the same day. And a month later, we finalized the compliance report, which is the Uniform Grant Guidance report. We also went ahead and completed the AUP as it relates to the expense reports, the purchase card purchases, and supplier invoices. This was our third year doing this specific AUP, and really one of our first years that we didn't have any sort of exceptions to present to the audit committee, so which is a really great feat as it relates to this particular report. Additionally, we relayed that everything that we had originally communicated during last year's planned audit strategy, as well as memorialized through a letter that was dated August 30th, is what was in play. So if there were any sort of deviations from that letter or report, we would be required to communicate that, and there weren't any deviations to communicate. Additionally, there was a new accounting policy that was adopted, GASB 96, as it relates to subscription-based information technology arrangements. This didn't really have a huge impact within the organization, but it was a GASB that is in play, and going forward, it needs to be ensured that it's complied with. We did not have any audit adjustments or uncorrected misstatements, so essentially what management provided to us as the final trial balance is what is reported within the financial statements. And as a result of not having any audit adjustments or uncorrected misstatements, there are no deficiencies in internal controls to report. So wanted to relay that executive summary for the 2023 cycle.
Thank you, Ms. Culliman. Are there any questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I want to thank Valerie and her team for their dedication, thoroughness for this audit. And also I want to mention that we are gonna have most of the new team from RSM, which are specialized in government audit, which is something new that started. So we welcome the new team also.
Thank you, Hamid. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And on the tails of that, we have an audit committee report. Ms. Joes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The audit committee met on May 23rd last week, and we discussed House Bill 78 and the RSM FY24 audit plan, which was just presented to the board. We also reviewed were presented with the internal auditor's report. And I think that was it. We do have some new dates that were discussed for the submission of the audit report, and we want to ensure that the board has enough time to review the report prior to submission. I believe it's November. So if we could have a follow-up on that for the board next week to make sure the board has enough time to review the audit report. And the next audit committee meeting will be in October. I think that completes my audit committee report, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the audit committee? Okay, hearing none, moving right along. Executive Director's Report. Dr. Glass.
Good morning, all. Thank you, Madam Chair. Wait till the slides get queued up. This is a more lengthy report, as I want to finalize efforts we're going to be making into FY25 with the results of the engagement survey. First up, as always, during this period, Deputy Furketic won. She had no expenses. I simply had expenses at a lecture at George Washington, a CAPI lectures that I attended that month, and my SWANA annual membership, Solid Waste Association of North America. I park. I always play the meters if I think I can make the time window in DC. So I paid on the meter. Yeah, you know, I didn't. Yeah, because it would have been automatic $20, $25 if I went to one of their garages at GW. Next slide. Lots of meetings. New conversations geared up again with Bioenergy DevCo. I had a great meeting with representatives from Anchor QEA yesterday, actually, on sustainable shorelines. And Deputy Furketic, Government Affairs Director Tosi, and I had a tour of Trade Point Atlantic, where we did get to see the staging area for the recycling of the metal from the Key Bridge and discuss issues with them on possible future dredging. And we did engage with WSSC, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission. They, including them and Prince George's County Department of Public Works and Transportation, new conversations on having, well, actually, we're working with the University of Maryland College Park right now and the Prince George's County Department of Environment on a proposal that will be submitted maybe next month, but maybe it'll be pushed out a little bit. But next month, I'll give you a full accounting of the grants efforts we've had this first fiscal year of really being intentional and trying to expand both our support for EJ40 and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act. Those efforts are going well. We're not winning as much as, you want to win everything, but we are winning some, and we're actually adding some great support to our major clients like the Maryland Port Administration. But I'll give an update on that next month. Next slide. Really proud. We had our kickoff welcome with the summer interns yesterday morning. I believe there are 15 here yesterday, 2 more to start in the coming weeks. But it was a lively session. We gave them the MES 101 and welcomed them and hope that some of them that are already seniors or graduating this summer will stay on as staff. But it was a great onboarding. And so we've increased our numbers, I believe, by 4 or 5 from last year. But again, we had a very robust time period with recruitment. And we have a couple events this month, but then the summer slowdown and career fairs and recruitment events will start in July and in August, and then gear up again in the summer. Next slide. So today, I guess, Mr. Botts will be the only board member with us at Bowie State if he's still available. And then on June 27th, we'll have a visit to one of our largest wastewater treatment plants, the Freedom Wastewater Treatment Plant up in Sykesville. And we'll wrap up having all the managing directors visit each other's sites too as part of the fiscal year goal. Next slide. So just a couple slides to wrap up on, you know about the engagement survey with the employees, but we've not presented the client survey, which was completed in April. We had 17 respondents, so we've increased by one over the last year, and 5 multiple choice questions, 4 short response questions. The survey generally showed appreciation of the talents of the MES staff, and we had some great suggestions. Next slide. So again, our knowledge, experience, our consistency, and our capability to meet compliance, operational skills, general communication and responsiveness, our interaction with the clients, and our project management were all recognized as proficient by those 17 clients. Next slide. There were statements on how we can improve our management interaction with our clients, and so we will focus on that. And there is always a question of cost. You know, this is a natural issue with our cost structure being statewide and having to have a cost structure. Sometimes our rural clients find our prices to be high, and that is repeated regularly, and we do our best, but we have a one price model. Basically, you know, our rates, our billable rates are for statewide. We don't have discrepancies in salary paid for people in different regions of the state. There is an interesting comment on certification support and working with the certifications for lots of staff throughout. That goes hand in hand with a lot of our training. And I'll try to remember to mention something on our supervisor and training later. And our pricing again, so cost reduction and our pricing were mentioned by a couple of the respondents. Next slide. So we'll continue to noodle on the client survey, but I do have a series of slides. I won't try to be too quick. Sometimes I speak too quickly. But I do want to express to the board that these slides represent the merging of all of the suggestions from the employee survey. And I have encouraged the BEST committee that'll be ramping up to show you our BEST goals next month, so that in FY25, we infuse a lot of the comments as best we can and respond to the anonymous survey of our staff. So first, compensation. So now you see the yin and yang of it, cost to clients versus compensation to staff. I gave a presentation already as a part of an all teams, so I'm getting a little bit ahead, but I really wanted to respond to some of the comments in the employee survey and give a review, and I'll be happy to share. It's a 65 slide deck done in 1 hour. I'm happy to share that slide deck with the board, of course, or anyone for that matter. It really reviews where we were 4 years ago, a lot of the steps that have been taken, and the adjustments to the compensation model that have taken place. So there were many comments on the fact that we have a 10% cap for salary increases. So I went through the entire compensation model with staff that attended, and a couple hundred staff were in attendance live, and then it's obviously on our intranet and they can review it. So we went over that, but we went over the BEST program, we went over fraud, waste, and abuse that existed in the past, and just cleared the air. We really spilled all the tea that could be spilled and just made sure that we have approximately 100 new employees every year, so many employees we've had turnover of 50% of the staff in the 4 years I've been here, so they might not be familiar with where MES had been. So we went over that, and I would highlight this as a check mark already, but I just wanted to explain that to the board and share the information if you want it. The classification compensation study should be coming out any minute now. I'm smiling at Ms. Patton, she's managing that process. So we do meet our requirement of every 2 years getting that done, and it will be done in the next month or two. Just waiting on the contractor to finish the report. Next slide. Education and training. We are going to continue to have staff that use Workday on a regular basis in finance and HR, and to give presentations on how people can use the modules. We are also investing in self-training on Workday. So there will be modules that are there in the next fiscal year. We have increased, and we are almost fully loading. You will all be invited to our graduation of the first 6 months of the year manager and supervisor training course. We have put on deck to do it twice annually. And so we're in the process of filling a course for the manager and supervisor course for the second half of the year, which is new for MES. And because we're always selling, we have offered that to a couple of clients and to the Chesapeake Bay Trust for their supervisor or managers if we have space to participate in that training through the Anne Arundel Community College. So that's already on deck. Now, financial literacy and personal finance, 30 years ago almost, I was forced to teach engineering economics, so I love financial management. Mr. Patel always is surprised at what I know, but we've already done a investment course. So this is about explaining to staff in our compensation model how someone should utilize the 401k and 457 as a base for financial wealth building for their career as long as they're with MES. So I already have one done, and next week we'll be doing one based on real estate and how that should also be the baseline. I'm a Dave Ramsey fan, so at some point in time in the next year, we'll also do the baby steps and explain how that model is set up. So this is about health, wealth, and education and training, healthy, wealthy, and wise. As an executive leader, that's what I'm trying to make sure that every staff member, every person that comes through MES understands that myself and the executive leadership team want to share our long years of service and knowledge in how someone can live within our structure and do well for themselves and their family. And as far as education and training, there was a request in the employee survey to have more lunch and learns. They really loved one done by one of our assistant attorney generals, Mr. Hartlaub, and wanted more like that. But I don't know how many times he can lecture on naming of businesses. Anyway, but we will do that on a bi-monthly basis. So we're gonna increase that from maybe a quarterly to every other month. Next slide.
Okay, question.
Oh, question. Get questions anytime.
These all four look internal. Did you look at like conferences or like industry conferences?
So we do have a performance measure for people to go to conferences, but these are generally what we're trying to do internally to stimulate leadership and education development inside the organization. But we do have a performance measure that we can share with you that's associated with our strategic plan that monitors staff going to both training events and to conferences for education.
I always found conferences to be really refreshing. Talk to other people about the same thing.
Can't remember who, is it you Ford? Yeah. It's like 10% of all staff are supposed to go to a conference annually. Is that the goal? For the operating. For operating staff. Next slide. So you saw a bunch of Inspires today. I don't know what happened. We're not going to really focus on any going backwards, but we got clogged up with Inspire. So Deputy Furketic and I decided to lead the evaluation, and we're doing so well this year that we wanted to get a bunch of Inspires done for the fiscal year, and we're going to make sure that we unclog that committee structure. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to revitalize that program for FY25. And, so I did do the presentation, but we want to make sure that people understand all of the bonus and incentive programs we have at MES. So we have a target program for smaller awards. We want to make sure that all the middle managers, all staff understand that we want to support them going above and beyond, and also make sure people understand the basics of BEST and BEST Plus and executive incentives, so that everyone's clear on the total compensation package that shows up on their W-2 when they are discussing their compensation, which they may only think of as their wage rate. Next slide. Health and wellness. So lots of some comments on health and wellness. I think it's been very, very successful. It was a quarterly program to date, and we're going to increase in FY25 to bi-monthly. We've even thought about trying to even do the 20-minute workout Wednesdays. This is just the executive office having discussions. We will bring back a nutritionist. That was the highest attended event in the last couple of years. So we're going to move up health and wellness, and then we'll do lunch and learn 1 month and health and wellness the other month. We save them. People that are on that can't attend in the moment can then watch them later. But just to know, for everyone to know that we care about their health and how they're doing. And along with that, the EAP program, the Employee Assistance Program, I'm hoping that contract is almost done, Ms. Patton again. And so that will definitely launch as a commitment in FY25, early FY25, not FY24, to support employees, for them to have people to call. There was a presentation by Ms. Patton a few months ago on that program. Next slide. So HR has a lot of HR is now fully staffed almost, but because of the support that they've been given, there's also support in the groups and support from the executive office. But we want to bring back a peer-to-peer program for new hires. That was an effort in the past that didn't really go anywhere. But now that we have Ms. Patton and Ms. Jones, it'll get done. We want to establish a point of contact for new hires so that they don't feel disconnected after their onboarding, not just with their managers. There's a current process, and we will be taking several policies to the HR committee next month. But we want to have Ms. Patton and the new HR team, they're going through all of our policies along with our EEO officer. They're going through and making sure that we're up to date. We had a policy project my first year to really review some policies were very outdated. They're going to get a refresh and get through the full review process with AG support, of course. But we have a tranche of maybe 6 or 7 that we're going to get done in the next month and hopefully keep going on. And then express to staff that, once policies are set, this came up with the compensation administration guidelines in the presentation I gave. When the board has approved a policy or a guideline, for lack of a better term, it is the law that we live by, and I don't deviate from that, and neither should any staff member. So, even with 10% being written into the compensation guidelines, I'm not going to bring back something that large, a whole compensation administration guidelines every year to you all, unless you ask me to. But we're working on making sure that everyone knows we live by our policies and guidelines, and they can work to those. So they work to the career ladders. It's a promise that if they meet the requirements of the career ladder, they will be promoted as long as the financial wherewithal is there. So we're going to be going over that and making sure that we communicate those changes to staff as best we can, posted at different sites. And Ms. Patton in FY25, she's going through the first version this year. Sorry to put you on stage so much, but Ms. Patton is looking at our review process, which we're going through right now. And she and Ms. Jones, her assistant chief, are going to look at how we can improve that process and really train managers and supervisors in a holistic way to implement the program and enhance the program. So that will be done as a part of a reaction to the survey. Next slide. Recruitment and retention. We will have a comprehensive resume database in FY25, whether it is software-based or whether we use our K-Share system. Somehow we will have a collection of resumes we have our groups go out and they find some of our major job categories, and they find someone, and the person just isn't the number one winner of the interview process. But 2, 3, and 4 may be good, and there are times when we get surges of resumes. So we're gonna have a database that managers can turn to as they advertise to see if highly qualified people that didn't just make the cut for that one position are recruited. And hopefully that can streamline and even shorten our onboarding, our process from employment ending to employment starting for a position. Great idea. I want to give a co-share to this idea. Ms. Slatnick and Ms. Cooper both kind of had this idea at the same time. We've done so well, and the interns from colleges and universities have shown so much success that we are going to work on a work study / co-op program for college, but also look at the high school VOTEC schools. Those people that are trained as machinists, electricians, and HVAC, they generally have jobs from the community colleges and the high schools before they graduate. So we need to get in touch with them and get in touch with programs, start in Anne Arundel County, where we actually engage with those folks when they're a junior and a senior in high school, not when they've already graduated. So we're going to work on that. We're definitely going to get something started with the high schools, the local high schools this year, and hopefully we can branch it out to all the VOTEC high schools in the state and really stimulate them knowing that we exist and that we hire regularly. Next slide. Told you this was a long one. So Ms. Condra is in place, and we almost have a new internal auditor, and she and Mr. Sharma are going to go through a Lean Six Sigma, right? Yes. That process should be starting soon to really work on how do we expedite our procurements. We're all going to do the same thing with permitting and see how we can improve these processes. Ms. Condra is enhancing our relationships with external partners on procurements as we speak, and going over the MBE and SBR program. MBE, we already meet or exceed the state goal, but we need to do some work on the SBR goal. So that's going to be a focus in FY25 as well. Next slide. So we still have issues with backups. We still have a fair amount of backup accidents. This has been an ongoing thing. Long-serving folks at MES say this has been a forever thing, but we are going to have a driving safety program in FY25 that every person that drives a vehicle will take before they drive an MES vehicle. Next slide. So this is a little tight. We are going to focus on communication up and down the management chain. There have been issues that have arisen over the years where there's a feeling of disconnect. One goal in that is that the executive staff will be required to contact every single person, even if it's just a short phone call, a hello. We will all call every employee at MES. So the managing directors will have even short calls once a year with every person, and Deputy Freketic and I will do the same. We will have an effort in FY25 to make sure that everyone has been contacted by us and that they know that if we can answer any questions quickly, we want them to have that contact. And we're going to have open houses. The MES used to have open houses by the operating groups, since there will be a day for environmental operations to have a little open house here and explain what they do to the rest of the staff. That's one on this list, and I won't read the rest of it, but we're going to focus on that whole organization communication so that there are no pockets of miscommunication or pockets where people don't feel like they're engaged with MES. And we're all going to hit the road a lot more and do our best to visit throughout the state. And water wastewater is already working on a plan. Mr. Lipinski has already really gotten it going. So I think that would be very effective with making sure that the sites feel connected to the headquarters. Next slide. Woo, that was a long one. Sorry about that, but I really wanted to give you the feedback. So this is just a slide. We had a great all teams in this room. And again, I'll be happy to share that with you if any of you are interested. It really does explain the construct of MES financially. Next slide. So, and this is the last segment. I guess I cut out a lot of my other stuff. We got a lot of great ideas for business development in the employee engagement survey. I've been challenged because our construct is one where 740 people at MES they have the goal of being 100% billable, and many of them meet that goal. So when we have something that's administration and we don't want to increase our overhead rate, how do you move forward? So at the end of FY23, there was a $250,000 research and development fund created, and I'll give more updates on that next month. But I have an idea that I'd like to implement in FY25. We have Mr. Miner, who's our grants trainee, and hopefully he will get promoted after he finishes a year. He's doing great work. But we're going to share the list from communications, the list of the ideas. There's 26 ideas, but I don't know who sent them in. They're anonymous, right? If people are billable and they have an interest, they will identify themselves to Mr. Miner, and we'll collate a list of people for those 26 topics that are interested in that topic. Then the grants team, which is really Ms. Latnick, Ms. Dolliner, Ms. Merkel, Deputy Fkedik, Mr. Miner, and myself, and Mr. Kluga, and sometimes Mr. Sharma. That team will identify grants for those 26 ideas. And then the research fund, which only had 20,000 spent from it, will be used to pay billable staff that have shown their interest, and we've identified the proposal to write the proposal. And we will continue to repeat that until we win. When we win the funding for that topic, we will then work with the managing directors and the supervisors managing that person so that they have time to work on that proposal. So this is a roundabout way of passing it back to the staff that have the great ideas. We're not going to hire a bunch of more Mr. Miners on overhead to chase down all those ideas, but we will utilize the small research and development fund to stimulate staff to work on things that they're interested in as environmentally conscious people. So we're going to roll this out, see how it goes. Hopefully we'll have 26 new teams of people that are interested. If we had 10, I'd be happy. And we'll see into FY25 if this can really stimulate our engagement, because as we engage with communities, I did speak this month on my visit. I did speak to the CEJSC, Committee for Environmental Justice and Sustainable Communities, and I explained what the grants team has been doing in the EJ40 efforts. And I told them if there are communities that have needs in the environmental space, we'd like to support them finding federal funding for that work. And that could all be connected. And there are more and more universities that are recognizing that we'll partner with them as an applied research organization, as an applied operational organization, and we're getting more opportunities. So hopefully that's near the end of my report. Next slide. Hey, so I skipped a bunch of other stuff that I usually talk about, but I wanted to give you guys an update on all that. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And that concludes my director's report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Glass, for that very comprehensive employee engagement survey action plan feedback.
Mr. Bites has a question.
Yes.
What is a peer-to-peer program?
Oh, that is so that we had a great program where people recently hired were connected with other people that were recently hired. So engineers are connected with engineers that have been here for a little bit, and they have a luncheon and get to know a couple of people, and sometimes in different units in different parts of the organization. So engineers from environmental ops and new engineers in water wastewater, they're just brought together to just feel connected to someone in their age bracket and in their job bracket.
It's a great idea.
Thank you. For the organization, not my idea. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the new business report, and these are, excuse the phone ringing, the accepted proposals since our last meeting. If there are any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, hearing none. Next, we have Mr. Patel with the financial report. Welcome back, Mr. Patel.
Good morning. Dr. Glass just went through a great presentation, what we are doing for employees, what we are doing for interns, what we are doing for clients and all. I have the same opening remark. I just looking for a word for that. MES financial position is good, great, excellent, whatever it is, but it's the same opening remark. So we'll go with the financial statement presentation. The next one. So on the left, what you see is the cumulative billable labor. The green bar is the actual, and then you see the budget for fiscal year 24 was increased from what we did actually in fiscal year 23, which is a higher bar. And the fiscal year 24 actual is gonna be even higher than what we had budgeted. So you can see at a glance, we are doing much better than actual budgeted for fiscal year 24. Every single group, our environmental operations, tasks, all those groups are growing by double digits. The environmental dredging billable labor is 20% higher this year than the previous year. So all the billable labor is growing by double digits. Overall, over fiscal year 23, our billable labor is 15.36% higher than the previous year. And billable labor is the one that drives our recovery for overhead, recovery for fringes, and the net earnings. So this month looks even much better because there are 3 pay periods in April compared to last year was 2 pay periods. In May, then it will even out because then May last year was 3 pay periods and now it is 2 pay periods. So for fiscal year 24 to February. So it will even out. But even looking at and taking into consideration all of that, we are doing very well financially. Next slide, please. So this is a comparison of fiscal year 24 as of April versus fiscal year 23. And as I say, there are 3 pays in April 2024. So it is little better financial results, but we do take into consideration, which we will see in the next presentation when we forecast the year end. Billable hours, of course, we grow the billable labor dollars, but billable hours are 126,000 more than the last year, which signifies that we have more projects, that more scope of work in existing projects. That's what drives the 126,000 increase in billable labor. The overhead expense, there is a much decrease in overhead expense. We have a lot of vacancies in overhead position. I haven't seen any of those kind of vacancies lasting this long for a while. But we have a lot of overhead vacancies, and we are actively trying to fill those vacancies, but the overhead expenses are much lower this year because of these extensive vacancies in overhead. The increase in net assets is the net earning. If you look at the actual fiscal year 20 as of April 2023, it was 4.7 million. We are at 8.3 million right now. And of course, there are 3 pay periods in April contributing to it. It will decrease a little bit, but we are doing significantly better over last year. And our revenues are also almost 11 million higher than the last year. So in every single criteria, we are doing much better financially. We are having more projects, more scope of work, more billable hours, lower overhead expenses. So all those categories is contributing significantly to our increase in net assets, which is net earnings. Last. So our labor sales are, we have a budgeted for full year, which I said was a little higher than what was last year. And based on the actual as of April 2024, we are forecasting the full year estimate of budgeted labor will be, the billable sales will be 42 million, which is 2.2 million higher than the budgeted. So which will have a significant amount of recovery and net earnings. The overhead expense line, if you look at that, there's a third line. That is where the biggest savings is coming in there that we did not expect is 2.1 million. We are estimated that will be under budget. And that is because of many overhead vacancies for lasting months. So overhead variance is the most significant contribution. We had a budget for 1.6 million, we're gonna do 2.4 million. The fringe variances vary depending on we give extra holiday, we do something different, the training, the tuition reimbursement. So that's not a very significant part of it. The other significant part is the interest income. We had expected that we'll have 485,000 because when we get the interest income, we distribute that to all other clients, the state, private, which client has given us the money in advance, we allocate interest back to them. So that's why, we are net, we are projected 485. Looks like we're gonna reach 1.5 million. So it's almost 1 million more than what we expected. I looked this morning and today is the highest I have seen in the treasury. So it's still rising. The interest rates are still rising, it's gonna go down sooner or later by the end of this year, but we are keeping an eye on it. And as soon as we feel that trend, we're gonna lock it in 1-year deposits for like a mid-short funds and all that. We don't use it for years. So that's why it's helping a lot for that. So we had expected increase in net asset of 4.1 million. Our current projection is 7.9 million. And we know that, the 3 pay period is contributing a little bit to it. So next month we'll have a better idea and then, we'll present if we have any ideas, suggestions for utilization for little excess funds. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Human Resources Report is up next. Good morning, Ms. Patton.
Good morning. I will keep this short and sweet. Our vacancy rate is down to 3.68%, which is right where we like it to be. We have 29 vacant positions and 7 of those are brand new roles. And 4 offers have been accepted and 8 are kind of routing through the process. So we are hoping to close a few more this week. And then Dr. Glass already reported on this, but we welcomed our interns officially yesterday. So we're very excited to have 15 of the 17 on board. And we're just excited to have them this summer.
And what's our percentage if you count the 17? We don't count the interns, but if you did. Don't worry about it.
That is not my wheelhouse.
If we had counted the 17, we'd only have 12 vacancies inside of them. Just for the board to know, right?
That's impressive.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Patton. Ms. Condra, procurement items and notifications. I believe we have 10 this morning.
Yes, we do. Good morning, everyone. So our first procurement item is from the Environmental Operations Group. And the project is a general labor service at the Prince George's County Materials Recycling Facility, MERF. This was awarded to CMT Services Incorporated for the amount of.
I'm sorry. It will be 1.6%. Sorry. Sorry.
For the amount of $2,053,193, $93.89, and the MBE goal for this is 30%.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm looking for a motion to put this one on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, thank you. Are there any questions or items for discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, unanimous approval. Number 2.
So number 2 is the renewal, it's for a renewal. And this is from the Water Wastewater Group, the Engineering Service Division. And the project is beneficial reuse services for dewatered, lime stabilized biosolids, Freedom District wastewater treatment plant. And the contractor for this project is Padlands LLC. The amount of this renewal is $151,125, which increased the total contract amount to $595,500. The goal set, the MBE goal is 10%, but their participation to date is 91%.
Impressive. Is there a motion to put this one on the floor?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Excellent. Are there any questions?
No.
My obvious question is the MBE participation. How are they coming in so far over their goal? Or is it just that part of the contract?
I guess, I don't know, maybe they included they saw more, opportunities to use MBE, so.
They are.
They are
And
MBE,
they
yes, sorry, so it's 50,
Ah.
so how it works is, even though the gold is 10%. If there is, the prime is an MBE, 50% of that, half of that, goal set is, it goes towards that, so they, able to use that, and then we increase the amount, so,
Wonderful.
yes.
Any other questions? And hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, unanimous approval. Number 3.
Number 3 is from the Technical Environmental Services, and it's the project name is Anna's Lee Neighborhood Study Point of Interest, A. The procurement, this is from our GIS and Associated Service shortlist, and it was awarded to Rommel, Klepper and Call LLP for the amount of $230,005.37, and the MBE goal set is 30%.
Okay, is there a motion for approval for number 3?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Wonderful. Are there any questions or points of conversation?
Good.
Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Number 4.
So number 4 is, again, from the Technical and Environmental Service for, this is the same project, but for the Point of Interest B for the Anna's Lee Neighborhood Study, again, from the GIS and Associated Service shortlist, and it's still awarded to Rommel, Klepper and Call LLP for the amount of $479,927.81, and the MBE goal set is 29%.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Ms. Conroy, you said the MB goal was 21%. It shows 29. Okay.
29. I said 21 or 29. It's probably my accent. I'm Jamaican. 29%.
Thank
You're welcome.
Okay, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, are there any questions or items for discussion?
I had a question. Why is there a different MBE goal between item 3 and item 4 for the same contractor?
Well, it's probably a small, you know what? It all depends. I don't know. You know, Mr. Barnes does his magic and meet with the project managers.
I can probably tell,
Yeah.
because it's two sections of the same neighborhood, so one section might have been a little bit bigger, so there's a little bit more work. So that we knew we could reach a little bit higher goal, so, yeah, I just.
It's close, I was
Yeah.
just curious.
Mhm.
We
That's a
knew
good
that
question.
being bigger, we probably could make it a little higher, but we didn't wanna go too high.
I was wondering the same. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, number 5.
All right, procurement number 5 is from the Environmental Operations Group, and this is for the Prince George's County Organics Composting facility. It's awarded to Ecoverse, and it's a one-time purchase for the amount of $655,826, and there is 0 MBE goal percentage.
Okay, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you. Now, is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Are there any questions? Or
No
points of
question, Madam
discussion?
No question, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make a comment if Mr. Ford isn't, this is a really exciting piece of equipment to add to the food waste facility there, because the county will be able to accept packaged waste food and depackage it, not manually, but with this machine, and it could add to the productivity of the food waste composting facility in Prince George's County and be an example for the rest of the state. Mr. Ford, would you like to add more expertise to that?
No, it's just, again, this material would otherwise go to a landfill. So it is waste diversion.
Or an incinerator in Montgomery County.
Incinerator in Montgomery.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Or go back in Baltimore City.
Or Baltimore City.
But this is Prince George's County, so.
But Prince George's County accepts food waste from far and wide.
Right, they do.
Really exciting.
So it's exciting, it adds to the portfolio, it develops the program further, which we'll see sometime in the next year or two with the expansion of the existing bunker system as well. So we're trying to get back to be number 1 of them. So New York beat us by 2 bunkers. So we're trying to beat them again. But it's a wonderful progression that's always there.
Like grocery stores or big box retail, that is the largest user of these.
Most of the food waste you see coming out is not going to be found in post-consumer waste from a restaurant. It's coming from this out-of-date warehousing. For instance, if the temperature changes in a refrigerator, refrigeration unit, they have to throw all that material out. It can't be used. And that normally goes out to landfill. So we're trying to figure out ways, we as an industry, on how we can capture that material and get it into a composting or a digester. Get something beneficial with that material.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. That's really exciting. I completely agree. That's wonderful. I feel as though we are taking here in America composting in a new direction, which is long overdue compared to some countries overseas. That's wonderful. Did we have a motion? I believe we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. And we are on number 6, which I, for the record, will be recusing myself from voting. So number 6, Ms. Condra.
Right, this is from the Environmental Operations team again. The project is the Midshore 2 cells, 1 and 5 engineering services for permit and construction bid phases. This was awarded to Geosyntec Consultants for the amount of $379,004, and the MBE goal set is 10%.
Wonderful. Is there a motion for approval?
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, sir.
I'm just curious, how did we get 10%? Is that like a default goal or something? It seems like we have an awful lot of 10% MBE goals.
This particular procurement is off of A&E shortlist, and it's for design services. So they're basically looking to self-perform the majority of that design. Where you'll see the MBE pickup is in the actual construction piece of that work. This is the design phase of it, so. It's consistent with our A&E contract with the contractor.
Okay, now I was just curious, as like I said, I see a lot of the goals, they always seem to be 10%. And I was just wondering, is that like a default, or was there a rhyme or reason to get to 10%?
The other thing in this particular, it's a small procurement, and again, they're self-performing, so it's difficult to get a higher percentage.
So, just to answer, so, yes,
Contract.
so usually with the AE shortlist and SBR, any of the shortlists, we, under those proposals, it has a set 10%, so you will see that consistency, especially if it came from those lists. So it doesn't fluctuate, because when we did the proposal for the shortlist, it had a steady, percent MBE goal percent, and so this short list was 10%. So any proposals that we get from under the short list would be 10%. So maybe that's what you're seeing.
We're not limited. When we can provide an opportunity to go higher, we do. Again, this is a small procurement for design services. There's a risk associated with design. Anyway, you're the primary, you're the design engineer for this. There's a significant risk for you, your errors and omissions, so they tend to keep that in-house as much as they can.
Okay.
But when we have an opportunity to go higher, we will, and we do.
Got it. Thank you.
Question. We've had a lot of MBE good questions today. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Any other questions or discussion items? Okay, again, I will be recusing myself from this vote, but all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Number 7.
Number 7 is a change order. It's from the Environmental Operations Group, the engineering plants, energy plants, and the project is the EECI turbine generator ~1 overall. So the contractor is Siemens Energy. The amount of this change order ~1 is $2,033,429.92, which increased the contract amount to $3,249,290.15. And the MBE percent participation goal, it was set at 0 and the participation is 0%.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Points of discussion?
Madam Chair, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm not hearing any comments or questions. So all those in favor, other than Mr. Botts, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Number 8.
Number 8, it is the Environmental Operations Group again, and the project is ECI Cogen equipment, boiler, burners, and economizers. And this economizers. This contractor is the Vol Equipment Corporation, and the amount of this change order number 4 is $506,242.50, which increased the total contract amount to $1,993,376.39. And this is, the MBE goal, percentage is 0, so the participation is 0.
Is there a motion to put it on the floor?
So moved.
I think we have a motion and a second. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or points of discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number
Number 9, this is for the Environmental Dredging and Restoration Group. And this is again from an AE shortlist. The contractor is Anchor QEA. And the amount of this change order is $116,234.67, which increased the contract amount to $228,361.36. The NBE goal set was 29%, and participation to date is 21.2%.
Shelley, come you in? Sorry, is there a motion for procurement item number 9?
So moved.
Second.
Excellent, thank you. Are there any questions or points of discussion? Hearing none, please raise your right hand and say aye to signify approval. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimous approval. Number 10.
Last but not least, this is from the Water and Wastewater Group, the Engineering Division. And the project is the Point Lookout State Park Water and Sewer System Improvements. This, the contractor is Stormwater Management Solutions LLC. The amount of this change order is $1,446,930.88, which increased the contract amount to $13,892,515.78. And the MBE goal is 26%, but the participation achieved is 18.46% today.
Okay, is there a motion to put this one on the floor?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Are there any questions or points of discussion? I'll ask, is there a plan for the MBE participation?
Yes, we are looking into it. Tim Barnes, the MBE SBR program manager, is definitely on top of this.
Excellent.
Good.
Any other questions?
Scores. There too.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Condra.
You're welcome.
Next, we have procurement notifications. These are contracts, purchase orders, amendments, and change orders, anywhere from the amount of $25,000 to $200,000. There are 2 pages of procurement notifications, and feel free to chime in if you have any questions. Okay, hearing none.
Oh, actually,
Wait a minute.
Oh, sorry.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Joes.
Yes, for the second contract here, the generic water tank rehab, what kind of, what tank is that and where is this engineering services? Can you specify the chain?
Yeah, could you repeat that? I didn't hear you.
The second contract for the generic water tank rehab, Could you specify which tank, location, and what kind of engineering services?
So we're looking at getting we had a spec that we were using on rehabilitating tanks and that. And what we've done is we're basically updating that. We're going out, we're looking at for a generic that we could utilize on a freestanding tower or just hydro tank, any of that kind of stuff that we can cover the whole gamut with a generic specification that we utilize, fill in the blanks as far as what kind of tower it is, and go forward from there.
So it's not a specific location. It's not a specific location.
That was a new, so it's just updating specifications overall?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question on purchase order 63976 and 63713. The natural gas purchases. Are these financial hedges or are these physical purchases, and are they, what period of time are they for?
Combination. Both.
Yeah.
I don't have the periods in front of me on this particular documentation, but there's monthly we go through with a third party that we contract with that negotiates state contract rates. And then we have to buy a certain amount of it in advance.
Are we exposed to market too?
A little bit.
How much?
I don't know. I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? All right, next up is our legal report. Mr. Coleman is not able to join us today, but we are lucky enough to have Miss Priscilla Carroll for our update.
Good morning. This is less of a report than presenting to you a draft amendment to the bylaws of the Board of the Directors. In your packet, you have a full copy of the bylaws with the same language you see on the slide in red line as a proposed addition to the bylaws. And what the addition does is to allow the secretary of the board, with the approval of the board, to authorize employee of MES to serve as the deputy secretary to assist the secretary to perform some of the functions that the secretary is required to do. The statute already authorizes the treasurer to appoint a deputy treasurer who's an employee of MES. So this is to assist the secretary in the same way. And as you probably recall from reports of the last legislative session, MES requested and the General Assembly approved amending the MES Act to add this provision into the Act. So that language will be effective in the MES Act. So what this change to the bylaws does is just align that with the change to the statute. So it's being provided now. I think the expectation or the hope would be that it would the board would vote on this in at the June meeting, and it would become effective as of July 1st. Are there any questions about that?
Thank you, Ms. Carroll. And the reason for the delay is that is how we adopt amendments to the bylaws, correct?
Yes.
It has to be introduced and then at another meeting we adopt.
That's correct.
Okay, any questions? Thank you. We now have group updates, and these are presented by a variety of employees. First up, it appears as though we have Midshore 2 landfill operations and the road EO, Tim Ford from environmental operations. Mr. Ford?
Good morning, everybody. Yes. We want to bring the board up to date on where we are with Midshore. For those of you that may not know or forgotten, MES manages and actually owns, operates, and manages a series of landfills for the upper 4 counties of the Eastern Shore. And each of those counties host a landfill for a period of 20 years. And we're at a point where we're winding down Mid-Shore 2 and we're looking to move forward to the Mid-Shore 3 landfill in Queen Anne's County, which is the next county up. So if we can put the slide. Next slide. So we're at an inflection point. So when we're looking at volume calculations at the existing Mid-Shore 2 landfill, we believe we have additional permitted capacity, airspace capacity there, and permanent airspace capacity, not built yet. One of the board items you saw today was to build out that space. But it allows us to operate in the early 2040s. So about a year ago, we approached Caroline County, which is the existing county, to gauge whether or not there would be interest in extending the existing Mid-Shore 2 landfill to fully utilize that airspace. Those negotiations have been ongoing for a year. As of the writing of this slide, we hadn't finalized an MOU that memorialized an agreement in principle between the 4 counties. I can talk about that now because we sent the MOU out last night. But we have come to an agreement with Caroline County because they are agreeing. They've abided by their terms. They found the site. They hosted it for 20 years. It was only fair that we find some consideration for that county, for the county, in return for extending the landfill out another 12 years. And so that would be paying them a host fee. And because all politics are current, we structured the payment offer for the host fee to begin as soon as the agreement was reached. But that would be paid at a lower rate, and then once the county was the original contract period that ended in 2030, we would pay a higher rate. And so those rates are $3 a ton and $6 a ton. We believe we can pay for those rates through a nominal increase in our tipping fees every year. We calculated based on third-party pro forma of about 1.4% per year increase in tipping fees. We also have an ability, because we're extending out 12 years, but we paid for all the construction capital costs through the original term. That's what the original bond offers were for. So we'll be able to restructure debt and find money there through debt restructuring. And additionally, because of the way GASB requires that our closure costs be accrued, those are accrued out on an airspace basis. So if we had done nothing and continued to accrue just on airspace under the existing agreement, we would have been under accrued because that's time bound, not airspace bound. So we had an additional accrual in place of approximately $3 a ton that we will no longer have to accrue now. We'll be back on schedule if we extend out for the full airspace. So we have money there as well to use to pay for the host fee. So we have agreement in principle. What we will be doing is once we get comments back on the MOU, nothing is ever finalized until the agreement is finalized. We'll be bringing that agreement back in front of the board. And I believe we have to have board approval for that. And so that at that point, we'll be able to come back to the board and represent this in more detail if you need. There's logic behind why you want to extend the existing landfill out. And there's competitive pressures that we have to pay attention to when we are looking at tipping fees, because we're not flow controlled in those 4 counties. We're dependent upon commercial business using our landfill, and that's dependent upon price. So we're very sensitive to that. So there's a lot of reasons behind why this made sense. And again, when we come back from the board with more time, we'll present that to the board. So that's where we are with the Mid-Shore agreement. Any questions on that?
No.
Much thanks to Hammond. He was very much involved in figuring out how we would pay for a host fee and why it makes sense. We had a third party, former MES. Joe Zimmerman, who worked with Queen Anne's County. Counties hired him to look at the agreement as well. So it was a lot of work involved, and it's been a year, and we're happy to see where it is now. All right, so that is that. One of the things you saw today was a board item for cells 1 and 5. We have to, because of everything is timed, it's kind of a ballet. You have to, this dance you have to do to meet the time constraints regarding permitting, where we are. We have to make certain decisions, even though we don't have the agreement finalized yet for the extension. We still have to start the design because of the time involved in getting that done. So that cells 1 and 5 are tied to, at least both 1 and 5 are tied to this extension. We still believe we probably need to construct the smaller of the 2 cells, cell 1, if the extension agreement falls through, and we're moving through Queen County. Additionally, although not on these slides, we are continuing with the permitting for Midshore 3. We have completed the phase 1 permitting, still waiting for MDE approval on that, but we've moved forward on phase 2, which is basically gathering monitoring well data to set a baseline for the landfill. So that's approximately 2 years. We'll suspend permitting, I think, if the agreement is finalized, to give Queen Anne's County some time to think about where we are. Anyway, next slide. Now the fun stuff. We hosted the 2024 Swan and Mid-Atlantic Regional Rodeo. Much thanks to the executive staff here. They all braved inclement weather. It was raining, it was cold. They all came out. Marnie was bundled up nice and tight. It's cold a lot, and it was a fun time. What is this? This is a Solid Waste Association of North America. They host a landfill, competitive regional landfill rodeo, which is taking the equipment that we would normally use in our business and run it through an obstacle course, basically, and it's timed, and there are points that are garnered for how well you operate in this course. And then if you qualify in your regionals, you get to go to a national rodeo. MES is proud to say that we are the host landfill for the national champion Logan Milby and the front end loader. You recognized that several meetings ago, and Logan was there to defend his crown. There were nearly 100 people there, 36 competitors, and then in addition, we're really happy to have 26 different pieces of heavy equipment there with their vendors, and they showed off their equipment. So it's a pretty cool set of vendors' participation. There was also a simulation trailer there where you can get in and operate a piece of heavy machinery, and Hammett was excellent. What did you do, Hammett? The excavator?
Excavator.
Yes.
Well, the guy said, I did pretty good in the steering and moving the stuff, but there were so many gears, I couldn't get them. I said, why don't you have the stickers that this was left? But it was fun.
Next slide. So I'm happy to say MES did really well. We were the host county, but other people again impressed. We swept two of the events. The compactor, Tony Rowe was first, Bruce Carroll and Logan Milby, all placed top 3. The wheel loader, which Logan was the defending champion, he came in 3rd, but Dakota Towers was 2nd there. On the articulated dump, we had top 3, Bruce Carroll, Dakota Towers, and Tony Rowe were there, and on the roll-up truck, Kerry Davis, and over on the dozer, Kerry Davis again. So we're going to be sending a few people to Georgia at the national event because of this choice. If one of the top 2 drop out, the 3rd person will compete. So because we have folks that are multiple places, they're going to Georgia. We've found a place for Logan, so he'll still be able to go out and defend his national championship in the wheel loader in Georgia. So wish them all well and good luck. And again, it's a fun event. We'll try to get the board. We're going to host again next year, so we'll try to get the board members out again next year. We've got a great course, so they don't want to go to waste. So any questions? It was a fun time.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Tim.
So the wind was blowing real hard, so all the photos of me on this thing, you don't see me.
Oh,
I'm hiding in the back, but I look like Nick Nolte's. Kind of destroyed all those photos, so that's the only one of me you're gonna see right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we have a sludge dewatering project / new drinking water regs. Matt Lipinski from Water Wastewater.
Good morning.
Morning.
Just as, it's kind of the story here's out with the old and with the new and, some good news to talk about. Next slide. So, some of the dewatering projects, these were approved by the board a while back and,
Bye.
Say again?
He's not talking.
Like that?
He wasn't talking to us yet. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay, anyway, some of the dewatering that we're doing, both of these plants, the one we see right now is the belt press in there is 37 years old. This has been sitting on the shelf for 5 months. This is gonna be a centrifuge replacement. Both belt presses are, well, one of them was not working anymore and has already been demoed, and we're waiting for the belt press or the new centrifuges to come in to make this transition go forward. They're doing a lot of work at this point, and we're expecting everything to be finished by September of 2025. This will give Dorsey some great opportunities in processing the sludge, and hopefully somewhere in the future there'll be a pyrolysis unit at that facility. Next slide. This is ECI. This set of belt presses are 30-some years old, and this one's almost like a fine wine. It's been sitting on a shelf for 17 months, waiting for the delivery of motor control center. So we're still in that COVID situation where we're trying to get delivery of items and that. So the belt press has been sitting there for, I think, almost 13 or 14 months. They've been sitting covered up, and we're finally moving forward on those, and hopefully things can get rolling on that pretty quickly. And we're looking for it to be done by the end of 18 months, so somewhere in 2025 also. Next slide. This is kind of the I don't know if this is in with the new or if this is in with the challenging, I guess, at this point. So finally, the EPA has promulgated the drinking water regulations with regards to PFAS. And as you can see, they finally have put together these 6 items that are going to be have limits that we need to deal with. With that said, go to the next slide. There are specific things that are outlined in this regulation. The first thing is to get monitoring done and completed by 2027 to see where we are. And then we have 5 years till 2029 to implement various solutions for the PFAS and taking care of the levels and getting them back to the MCLs. And the final one is with any violations after 2029, they're going to need to be reported and with public notifications, and still looking at getting the reduction. So there are some grants available, and I put that link there. One of the things with this one is right now we're working on a client, one for our client with DNR. We're working on getting the facility ready for treatment. We also had an inquiry from another corporate client to do 2 units for their drinking water also. So then there's a couple other ones that we do have some hits on that we're going to take a look at, and we'll notify the client of the need for this to move forward. And I think the way it's playing out now, the quicker we hit it, the better off we're going to be in moving that forward. And then the next slide is kind of the good news. And so the city of Frostburg was awarded for the water system of the year. So it's kind of, I want to read Mayor Bob Flanagan said, he said, "This is a testament to our employees and Maryland Environmental Service for their hard work and dedication to our citizens and surrounding communities that our system serves." And basically the water system of the year award was for the assistance with the folks at Lonoco. And up on the middle one there, the Hollywood looking guy with the sunglasses on, that's our own Mark Cosby, the Simpson Regional out west. And he's pretty proud of this obviously, as they all should be. The other award that they got was this AWOP Gold Award. And AWOP is Area Wide Optimization Program Gold Award. So it's for anybody that has 100% compliance with all pollutant limitations and other permit requirements for the past calendar year. And then also 100% compliance with all reporting requirements, submitting completed reports to the relevant authorities by their due dates. And so basically this whole idea of the AWOP focuses on the enhancing existing treatment and operations, which can lead to improved operations at drinking water systems. So this is a really proud note for our folks out there at the Frostburg facility. And then the last one on the left, those are three of our folks from water and wastewater operations that they had a booth at the Maryland Rural Water Association. Left to right, Joe. No, I'm sorry, not left to right, but left to right is Mark Kaiser. Center is Joe Wright, and to the right is Todd Bolton. And that's it for today. The only thing that is up and coming that you will see in their future, the water tower and water treatment plant for Sandy Point is forthcoming. We're looking to get the construction permit, and hopefully you'll be seeing that within the next month or so for the board approval to get that moving forward. That's all I have for today. Any questions, comments? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have environmental dredging and restoration, Marnie Dolinar with the Hawkins Point Dredged Material Containment Facility update. Ms. Dolinar?
Hey, you want to filling in for Marnie today. Today's group update is on the Hawkins Point Dredged Material Containment Facility. The MES operates, maintains, and monitors for the Maryland Port Administration. This DMCF is located just north of the Key Ridge, adjacent to the Hawkins Point Marine Terminal. It's on the same overall site as the Hawkins Point hazardous waste landfill, but it's completely separate part of the site. So the site was used for dredge material. 70s into the early 90s, it was currently still active. The north cell is comprised of about 14.5 acres. It's closed in 2012, and in 2014 we started to reforest the area in native trees for critical area credits. The south cell of the site, the DMCF, is about half its size. We're currently using it to stockpile innovative reuse materials. It last received dredge material in January 2023, and that grading was completed in September of 2023. It's been used for small dredging projects, not like the large inflow we see from the Army Corps from the approach channel, but small dredging projects. And for planned future use of the south cell, talk about a little bit later in the presentation. Looking at the Lake Creek Innovative Reduced CO2 project. The next slide. So to meet MPA's current and future mitigation needs, the north cell was reforested to a natural forested buffer habitat. The entire site is within the critical area, therefore the planting requirements met the critical area regulations. Overall, throughout the 14.5 acres, we planted over 3,161 trees were planted in the area. This project started back in 2013. MES's EDR operations group, our construction team, and that's the Metro team, and they would come from different sites to help out at each other's projects. And so we had operators from the different sites come to this site and work with their construction equipment. The work was completed in 2 phases. Phase one included dewatering the site, including cutting trenches and monitoring for water quality for discharge. We also relocated some trails that we found on the site. Phase one also included tilling the trail to about 6 inches, and we had to add some soil amendments, and leaf row were added. Then phase two, since it was done after phase one, we were able to apply some of our lessons learned that we for phase one, and so include ripping the soil using a J cup for deeper action ahead of regrading and planting, and create more favorable growing conditions for these trees. So as you can see from the pictures here, this has gone from just, it's amazing to see, especially in our harbor, the harbor area in Baltimore, you don't see many forested areas, so it's great to see this area that over the years, you can see from the pictures, it's just totally transformed into a 14-acre forest there. MES continued to monitor the area up through 2020. At times, we know if trees died, we replaced them over the years, but it received full critical area commission signed off successful mitigation project in 2020. So the next slide is a video. Survey team. From this mitigation, they have been used at other projects to help MPA with Masonville Storm Drain, the Combi location project, also projects at Cox Creek. So we will be able to use some of those credits. So as I mentioned, there's 2 cells there. So this is the smaller cell, refer to it as the south cell. This cell currently has 5 stockpile locations. Stockpiles 4 and 5 have been sampled and they've been characterized according to any private stock as category 1, so unrestricted use, they can be used any place. And those are, that material is currently set aside for 2 shoreline restoration projects. Hauling is scheduled to start this spring, so we don't know close to spring 6. We'll say spring, summer time frame. We should start hauling the material to be used in these shoreline restoration projects. And then there's lots of 3 other stockpiles. We just started sampling those in March, and we don't quite yet have the designated use that they'll be available for innovative reuse projects going forward. Those are just that's the volumes. Yeah, that's the So going forward, as part of MPA's Innovative Beneficial Reuse Program, we're looking and planning for a project using energy transport funding, grant funding, to complete the Colgate Creek material dewatering project. So this would be material that is dredged from Colgate Creek, which is up by Cedar Marine Terminal, and it will be placed in to be dredged and placed in geotubes at this point in south. So I don't know how familiar you all are with geotubes, that they're a textile material that is used, and it prevents the solids from coming out. It's like wastewater, like a bag filter, huge bag filter that is used, and it will let dewater and compact the material over time, so it helps in the dewatering and eventually able to use this material for innovative beneficial reuse projects. So this would be the first large scale dredging project, at least in this area, that we've used geotubes for. As you can see, we're looking at like a stacked design so that we can maximize capacity within that small 7 acre cell that we have on site. We did the permitting, went to MDE in December of last year. MES helped with that, so we're still waiting on permitting for this project. Phase for what is down there. Any questions?
Thank you. Next up, we have an update from Technical and Environmental Services. This is a Watershed Resources Registries update. Ms. Slatnick?
Right, today's update is going to be given by Mr. Tyler Rickey. Tyler is a senior lead environmental specialist in the TES group. He's been here about 10 years, yeah. He has a wealth of knowledge, and he can probably say Watershed Resources Registries better than I can, because that one is a mouthful. But
Thanks. So yeah, Watershed Resources Registry, yes, yeah. We just go with WR, much easier. So this is an internal and external partner application. Began in 2011 in Maryland. We've since expanded to other states. We have about 8 states right now. They are Delaware, Maryland, as I mentioned, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Puerto Rico is our newest one, South Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia. So we're all over the East Coast. The Puerto Rico one is pretty fun, and they're really getting into it down there. We're just starting to do some of the heavy detailed modeling. I'll talk about later. So this project is sponsored by EPA, funded by them also. Over the years, it's received about just over $1 million in funding. We use that money to build tools inside the application, develop data models. I'll talk about some of those later. Host data, download data, and post it on the website. And we also do some other group initiatives that I'll also talk about later. This is an available to public use application. Anyone can go use it. It's geared towards regulatory agency folks or contractors that are working on restoration projects or design projects. And yeah, it's a good collaborative with the state and federal agencies that are part of. So really fun project that I've been working on for 4 years, but it's been around for a long time. Next slide. So there's 3 main components that I wanted to talk about. Team collaboration, GIS analyses are kind of like the main part of the application, or its biggest use that we think. And then lastly, the interactive mapping tool. I wish I could give a demo of the tool, but with the different streaming things we're using here, it slows it down. It doesn't look great. I do encourage people to visit the website if you're interested. The link is on the title slide of this presentation. Next slide, please. So team collaboration. We host monthly TAC meetings to discuss agency initiatives. These can range from new data development activities, new permit requirements that are upcoming. Just a really good opportunity for the folks at the bottom there. You see Army Corps of Engineers, MDOT, they have state highway departments, some folks in MDOT. Their own Department of Planning has been involved in the past, DNR, MDE, and then EPA is that they hosted along with us. So it's just a really good forum for all those agencies to get together, discuss upcoming initiatives, upcoming projects that they're working on, data that might be available for other agencies to use in their work. We host them monthly for most states. Some states are more on a quarterly basis, just based on their needs. So it's pretty much an open dialogue. We talk about data updates that they're working on, but also any data that we should be posting on the application that we aren't currently doing. We also use it to discuss new enhancements that are coming from the application, talk about bugs, anything that's going wrong with the app, so we can try and work on them behind the scenes to make sure everything's running smoothly, as smoothly as it can be. Yeah, so really good opportunity there for folks to participate. Last thing for collaboration I wanted to mention was we have hosted in the past yearly forums to talk about what we've done throughout the year, plans for the next year. They used to do those in person somewhere in West Virginia. I haven't been able to attend one yet. COVID kind of stopped doing those, but we first did a couple virtual ones that were successful. I think we could bring those back. And then we also used to host what we call power hours, where we would invite folks from other agencies, the resource conservation groups, to discuss some of their projects. So the ones I wanted to highlight were Enviro Atlas, EJ Screen, which are computer tools that are used and then the Chesapeake Conservancy hyper-resolution data. So they developed a new hyper-resolution data set. We invited those folks to come to this forum to discuss it with our tech teams. And then there was a climate change and environmental justice and water quality indicators power hour as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so the GIS analyses, and this is a little bit tough to see, but I can try to explain what's happening here. So these are the bulk of the application. So MES develops these models in-house. They analyze several different data sets depending on what the model is. Put those data sets into an ArcGIS map. We're actually using ArcGIS Pro now, and use what's called a model builder to construct these models to show different opportunities. So the opportunities are we call them suitability analyses. There's 8 of them for Maryland. Each state kind of differs, but they mostly they're geared around the same things, which are wetland and upland restoration and preservation, stormwater preservation and restoration, and riparian restoration and preservation. So the preservation models are geared towards preserving areas that are currently classified in those 4 factors. And then the restorations are opportunities for areas that may have been a wetland in the past, and we want to restore it to, its previous form. So these models drill into different data sets using a variety of factors. I'll touch on in the next slide to show the best possible areas for those. So on the right is the legend. So the white is not suitable at all for a restoration or preservation, and then going up to 5 is the most suitable. Next slide, please. So how we conduct these models or build them, we do 2 things. We classify data as an absolute factor or a desirable. We also call it a relative factor. So for the absolute factors, for this one, this is the wetland restoration model criteria. So it obviously must already be a wetland if we're, this is preservation. But it has to be a wetland, or the area has to have certain criteria to be able to be a wetland. Cannot already be protected. So these change depending on what the model is. But these absolute factors just kind of like set your base criteria. What impacts the scoring are the relative factors on the right. So it has to be in an area greater than that size. It must be within a core forested area, near a mitigation project. And again, these factors kind of change. We may update these years later if data is updated. So I think we recently updated the Maryland models. They used to be in a 30-meter resolution, but with new technology, we were able to get that down to a 1-meter resolution. So back on the previous slide, again, it's hard to see, but you don't have to go back there. It used to just have large polygons over a certain area, and it would cover streets, buildings, whatever. With 1-meter analysis, we've been able to remove streets, houses, impervious areas. So we've been able to really target areas for folks to use as planning. Okay, this is again, it'd be cool if I could show it, but I wanted to get a sense of the types of data we have on the application. In Maryland, we have nearly maybe over 200 different data layers available. So some of these, the ones at the top, those are the models I discussed, the suitability analyses. The stream mitigation framework layers there was a collaboration project with US Army Corps. We helped them do another model. They provided all the data, and we're just kind of doing the last step of posting it to the site. In the middle there, you'll see permits and mitigation. So there's Army Corps permits on here, MDE, a few others, protected lands, priority conservation areas. Our newest initiative, environmental justice, we're still trying to get that, build that out as the data becomes available. And then over on the right, we have coastal resiliency and the 10 and 30-year shoreline erosion level data. So this is just a very small subset of the types of data we're posting on here, but it's a really good platform for all this data to kind of exist in one place. These agencies, I think with all these 12 or 15 layers I'm showing here, there's probably 15 to 20 agencies or conservation groups that have compiled this data. There's the board that I haven't shown. So it's a really good place for all of this data to exist instead of having to go to all these different sources, download the data, use it on your ArcMap. It's all right here in a very user-friendly environment. Next slide. So I wanted to highlight a few of the tools. There's a lot more that I would be able to touch on today, but again, I just mentioned there's nearly 200 data layers on this site. So it's a lot for users to kind of like pick through. So I wanted to highlight a few of the tools that we provided them to make it easier. The first of those tools is called featured collections. You'll see a couple of them right there. Those are for the suitability analyses. So basically in these two layer packages is essentially what they are. We've put all the layers that we used to develop the models. So instead of a user having to go through that whole layer list and click all 20 layers, they can click this button here. It adds all of those layers to the map. You can see to the right, and then they can turn them on to see, okay, how did this factor influence the score? So it's just, again, it's a really user-friendly way for them to see what went behind the scenes. And we have other featured collections that aren't just for the models as they're requested by the agencies. Next slide, please. Another tool, again, just to kind of help users see what's in the application or what might be in an area of interest. We have screening reports. These can be custom. We have one that drills through all of the layers in the application, but the real benefit of these is targeting certain things. So we recently developed a NEPA report for State Highway for them to do some of their NEPA screening. The water resources report, again, geared towards water resources. How this tool works is there's 4 or 5 different drawing options there. I've highlighted the point feature with a buffer. So say I have an area of interest for a permit that's just come in, I'm going to see what impacts this project might have on certain resources. I can use this tool to draw a point or drop a point, draw a square, a buffer, a triangle, whatever the LED might be. And then that report, based on whatever layers are in the background of it, will kind of show what resources might be in that area. So maybe there's a stream on the 319 list here. Maybe there's a certain organism or biological stream study that's been done in the area to see what's going on here. So again, there's nearly 200 data layers in this application. So having to turn them all on and guess what might be here might be tricky. So just a little analysis tool that users can take advantage of. Next step. Okay, last one to highlight is the tool that's used in conjunction with the suitability analyses. Some of those suitability analyses have maybe hundreds of thousands of polygons, depending on how big the state is, as it goes across the whole state. So we wanted to provide users with a tool that can search through that data layer a little bit more easily. So you can select a county. If you're looking in a particular county, I can look at a certain watershed, and then I can choose whatever model I'm looking at. So this one has the upland preservation model selected. And then you kind of get in, you can target a certain area. So maybe I'm not interested in an area that's only a 1-star or a 2-star. I can set my query here to look for only 3 stars, use the operator there and that over to the right. So I can set it equal to 3 stars, or I can say at least 3 stars. So you do like an equal or greater than, and then I can choose, maybe I'm only looking at areas that are 5 acres or greater. Again, it'll search through that whole data layer and provide the results for easier targeted outreach. That's all I really have, but any questions? Thank you guys, I appreciate it. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you to all 4 of our presenters. Much appreciated. We have new and old business, and I believe Mr. Witt is going to discuss the Executive Director Performance Evaluation process.
Yes. So as part of the MES Reform Act, the board approved an evaluation review process for the executive director in June of 22. The evaluation form states that the evaluation should occur after the completion of the MES financial audit. The audit is not typically completed until mid-November. Agency-wide performance-based compensation is approved in June. And the board also has to approve a contingent increase for the executive director in June. Then once the financial audit is complete, the evaluation can be completed and compensation increase approved, leading to retroactive back pay to July 1. We would like to propose a change in the schedule for all future evaluations. We would like to conduct the evaluation process starting in April and through May, to have it complete by the June board meeting. And the board could still revise the director's evaluation after the financial audit is finalized. We did this last year due to 2 members' terms expiring, and the process was a lot more efficient and a lot less work for internal staff. Just wanted to bring that up for your consideration.
Good.
Are there any questions about this new timeline, the proposed timeline? Okay, and do we need to vote on the process change?
Maybe Priscilla can weigh in on that. That was one thing that wasn't clear for me.
Board approved the original. Then I think probably, if it's not required, it certainly could be taken and then you've covered that base.
Does that timeline start today? Or that next year?
Bobby, do you want me? I think the idea for this year was to start it now. We would be a little delayed in that the process probably wouldn't actually be implemented until July, to give you more time to conduct the evaluation over the course of June and sometime before the July meeting, act on the recommendation. And then next year it would be probably, this would be rolled out to in April, be completed in June. So
Is there any other questions?
Line, and this would be the estimated changes to the language of the form itself. That should be.
If there are no other comments or questions, I'd recommend we go ahead and take a vote just to make it official. And that way we're covering all of our bases, as Ms. Carroll pointed out.
I agree.
So if somebody would like to make a motion, that would be great.
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Wonderful. Okay, any other questions or comments?
So procedurally, we'll be distributing the packets to the board members to complete individually. Then the board members will need to, on their own, meet to discuss without MES personnel present. So that would need to happen sometime probably in June. Yeah, to then bring it back to the board in July.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand and signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it looks like we have a new process in place. Thank you very much for all your hard work on that.
Thank you.
Okay, next, I'd just like to make an announcement for our upcoming meetings. All meetings do begin at 9:30 on June 13th, which is coming up in a couple weeks. We have our Human Resources Committee. June 27th is our next board meeting. July 25th is the next board meeting, but we'll also have an annual training. That's the required annual training for MES board members. And you can see the rest of the schedule for the year to include an October 24th audit committee meeting. And I do believe we have a closed session on our agenda. And this closed session is to consult with staff consultants or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. So if we could have a motion to go into closed session, that would be fantastic.
So moved.
And Mr. Witt, was that a second?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we will be moving into closed session and we will convene the meeting upon the conclusion of the closed session.